Hey, what's going on everyone? This is yours truly back with another video, and today we're going to be doing the tier list for version 0.12. This is the tier list with Wraith being introduced in the game. I'm hearing a lot of mixed opinions on him, so this is a perfect time to do an updated tier list for how all the different heroes are feeling on this patch, in my opinion, of course. This is all just my opinion at the end of the day, so do not take my word as fact, but rather my personal viewpoints on where I see these heroes at in the meta. So without further ado, let's kind of jump straight into it. We're going to first, of course, talk about Wraith, and I've been hearing a lot of mixed opinions. I hear a lot of people saying that it's just kind of very meh, and then I hearing some people that think he's like super strong. And so for me, I think I'm going to go with the middle ground and put him right in tier 2. And so kind of I guess the best analogy I can come up to exactly where Wraith's strength lies is you kind of treat him like a Richter. Richter is someone that is super reliant on his hooks, right? And when you see like a Richter that can land all of his hooks in every team fight and lane, he feels like an SSC hero. Like, he's just so obnoxious to go against a super good Richter player. There's a reason why there's some people that will literally just one-track him, even the competitive scene, because a hero that can just land all of his hooks just makes this guy like really scary to go against. And so you can kind of think of Wraith in the same thing, where like if you can land all your snipes, all your combos very consistently, he is so obnoxious. This guy pumps out some serious damage. I'm not even joking. And part of it is like, if you go the right build on this character, he can seriously just one-shot people. Like, all it takes is the Q on B twice, and then you can just 100-0 squishies in the mid to late game. Now there's two issues though. One is the fact that you have to hit all your skill shots, right? So very much like a Richter, if a Richter player is like not laying his hooks, like he has like a 30% hook rate essentially, then Richter feels much worse, right? He feels like a tier 3 kind of character. The biggest thing about Wraith is that unlike Richter, who can still kind of frontline even if he like misses the hook and still have silences in this kit, Wraith doesn't really have that. He's even more skill dependent in terms of like landing your skill shots. So if you are not landing your snipes consistently, he's gonna feel very meh. And that is where some of the camp is coming from, where people saying it's very meh, because like Wraith is not the hero for everyone. Wraith is the ability based ADC, which is very unlike like Twin Blast and Drongo, who is very much have that high sustained damage with their other attacks, right? So first you have to have a different mindset when you're playing Wraith. You play him to go for backline picks, trying to 100-0 the mages, just really squishy targets, and not so much focusing tanks, because Wraith also kind of struggles against tanks a little bit in terms of the damage department, right? And also it's just like, you have to go the right build on him. I think the community is still trying to figure out the best kind of builds to do Wraith, and I did my duty to try and show you guys some different ways to build him. The build that I did on Friday with like the Pain Reaver and Inferno feels like his best build in my opinion for doing that true 100-0 kind of combo very consistently. And so I think once people start to pick up on what's his stronger builds and just kind of run them more consistently, people play this character more and more often, then you can probably see him starting to feel much better. But right now I think Wraith is just that character that it's gonna take a lot more time for people to get used to. And so I think he's seriously just gonna be a tier 2 at least. I really don't think he's a tier 3 hero, because if you're thinking he's like tier 3, then I think you just need to get better with your snipes. There's no really way about it. I seriously think if you lay most of your snipes and go in the right build, he feels at least tier 2 in my opinion, of course. Other notable mentions I want to go for this today's tier list video is when to talk about Zarus, who all of a sudden everyone's saying he's a S tier hero, but guess what? YoeYoursTruly's been saying this for the longest time. Zarus has always been a super good hero, because like they haven't really done any major balance things with him. The only thing they really did with him was some adjustments, and then mostly just fixing his ultimate, so now consistently stacks his passive, right? But like that didn't really change his actual performance that much. It just makes him a little bit feel better consistently. But all of a sudden everyone's saying he's SS tier, and I'm kind of scratching my head. I'm like, wait a sec, he's always been super good, just people sort of like doubted Zarus on first release. He's almost like the Wraith situation where, in my opinion, like when Zarus first released, people doubted him a lot, because I think he has a lot more high skill ceiling than people realize. You play him in a specific way to really kind of achieve what he does best, and that he's a lane dominator. No matter the matchup, he seems to always do really good. So he just wins lane if you know exactly how to play him, and it's really hard to kind of counter his presence in the off lane. And so I think people are now starting to like get comfortable playing Zarus. They know his matchups. They're starting to realize his more unique strengths and play styles. And now all of a sudden, people are like, oh yeah, this guy is nuts. But like, no, this guy's been nuts since day one. It's just people now have finally caught onto how to actually play Zarus. But of course, that's a little bit me going on tangent. A little biased because I always love Zarus. It's just, it feels a little bit bad, especially in one of the last competitive tournaments that people didn't play Zarus. And when they do, they go a really awful build on him, and when I saw that made me really sad, because I think he definitely was always been super solid since day one, and now finally people have figured out the right builds and the right play style on him. Other notable mention is gonna be Feng Mao. Like, they've been kind of trying to nerf him in the offlane, especially in recent patches, but he's still very obnoxious to go against. I did like a video, you guys may have not seen it because I haven't put it out already, but like Feng Mao offlane, it's just always disgustingly good. Like, he's very much in the same camp as a Zarus offlane, where he's just a lane dominator, and he can really just start the snowball once you get ahead. And he can get ahead pretty easily because of how straightforward and easy his kit is. I think out of all the one tricks I see Feng Mao be one trick the most, and there's good reason. Feng Mao has everything you want. He has a very powerful passive on a low cooldown, because every time you hit someone with the base attack with his passive, you do HP damage, and that doesn't cost mana. Instead, it's on that low 3 or whatever 4-second cooldown that you can keep hitting people on repeat and just whittle them down. And so it's just, that alone is kind of disgusting to try to play around in the off lane. He also has very high mobility with his RB, of course, very solid straightforward combos with his R attack and E, and of course he has the durability with the Q, so even when you're expecting to get hit, you just press Q and then all of a sudden you mitigate a ton of damage in that trading. And it's not even beyond that, it's like he has an item called Mind Razor where he builds that, and now he insta clear waves. So like, you have this character that literally can do everything you want in the offlane. Like, the only thing he can't do is surviving a ton of CC bursts, but everything else, high damage, high mobility, very fast wave clear, very strong split pushing, very great early game, very great mid and late game. He has everything. I seriously think Feng Mao is, it's just disgusting in terms of like, his kit is just like, doesn't seem balanced. I think there's a certain point where you try to fine tune the numbers, so either he's always going to be super disgustingly good, or he's going to be just really bad, because it's just, I think he's someone that may need to see some rework in the future. I've been talking about like that for other heroes like Grux especially, where I feel like Grux always been kind of hanging around here, and not because the numbers are bad, but just the base kit doesn't feel great in higher elo. So I feel like with Feng Mao's kit, no matter how much you tweak the numbers, he's always going to be like really disgustingly good because of how much his kit offers. So we have to wait and see what they're gonna do with Feng Mao in the long term, because in previous podcasts, one of the lead game sides did confirm that someone like Grux is someone that he wants to rework eventually. So it's nothing to say that other heroes won't get the same treatment. We just gotta see when they announce that and what kind of changes they do with that. One last notable mention I would make, it had to do with Sevarog, because Sevarog got a very interesting adjustment this patch, where essentially they changed how he get his stats. And what I mean by is like, Sevarog is a hero that gets really tanky due to his passive soul stacking, but also like he just have great base stats or growth stats, in the sense that like when he level up, like whenever you level up in Predecessor, you of course gain base stats, you gain more like physical power or high attack speed or more health and armor, etc. For someone like Sevarog, he gains quite a bit of like actual base stats, and the reason why I'm bringing that up is because the whole point of the adjustment they made is they lower those base stats he gained by just leveling up, but increase the amount of stats he gains on his stacks. And what that means is that before it's just really annoying to go against Sevarog offlane, in the sense that like even if you'll double his CS, he still gets to the point where he gets like Fire Blossom level to 6 or 7. All of a sudden it's like you have that huge lead, and now all of a sudden he's just starting to like run you down, and just like, what the heck, I have this huge lead. And that's probably because his growth stats always been like pretty solid, and then like he doesn't like how do I say it, and his soul stacking stats will also just a nice complement to that. So since I did like the whole readjustment for like Sevarog, I think he's gonna be sitting like a T2. I think still like very much a T2. I almost want to put him T3, but I kind of want to let Sevarog kind of cook a little bit more before I decide what to do with him, because like probably it's like I'm thinking of this more like a kind of solo queue kind of tier list mindset, and I still think even with the adjustments, he's very much like a T1 pick in the competitive scene, but like in solo queue, I almost want to put T3, but I think he's still a T2 hero. But just know that with someone like Sevarog, he should be much easier to shut down if you get a lead, because now he's much more reliant on his stacking to actually get the stats. So if you shut down his stacks down early, he's actually really missing a lot of those defensive stats that makes him really tanky in the first place, even the earlier levels. So I think now it's much easier to shut down Sevarog, but of course if he does stack pretty well, he's not going to gain a little bit more benefits than before. So that's just something to keep an eye on Sevarog. I think he's going to be someone that's going to be very interested to see how he adjusts to his soul stack and growth stats right there. Other than that, I think that's all the main notable mentions I want to make on this patch. Now we're just going to go through the rest of the list as normal. We're going to be talking about counts, of course. It's kind of interesting with this patch, they also adjusted some of the different positions. So like in the jungle role, for example, they added a bunch of new heroes in the jungle role, but also they added like Steel in the support role that wasn't there before. They removed Countess and Kalari. Oh, actually they just moved Countess. I think it was just Countess and Victor actually they removed from the offlane recommend role, and now both of them are recommended as junglers. And so Countess is someone that's been kind of volatile. In lower elo she does really good, but in higher elo she starts to fall off because she's really easy to punch in lane. But ever since the jungle adjustment, she actually become much more better suited for the jungle, where she actually can look to farm, look to kind of get to early kills to start the snowball and do what she does best, and that's to snowball, gank lanes, gank kills, because especially with the passive is tied to kills and assists, she needs to like be able to get those kills and assists, be able to like activate her passive. But it's very hard to do that in the mid lane or off lane role. But in jungle, when it's all about ganking, you can definitely enable that passive stacking a lot easier, I would say. So I think Countess is someone that is definitely very solid at the moment. I still think that even though like she's gaining a lot of love in the jungle role, she still has some of the issues where she can easily be shut down or caught out pretty easily. I think just Countess is just a high risk, high reward kind of character that it may not be for everyone, is my kind of thing I'm trying to say. Next up is Crunch, and this might surprise some people, but I'm gonna put him tier 3. I've been always rating Crunch up here for the longest time, like tier 1 or tier 2. However, the main issue I've been seeing with Crunch is that he's not having like a lot of great roles to really kind of excel in. And what I mean by that is that like he used to be a lane dominant, like super hard lane dominant at the start of early access in the off lane. But as they've been adding more and more heroes to off lane as the meta kind of shifts, he just becomes someone that's actually pretty easy to shut down. Like Zarus is really good into him, Feng Mao is actually not that bad into him as well. There's a lot of other heroes like Steel is very good, Victor is very good into him. So and Grux is actually very good into him as well. So Crunch doesn't really have that much favorable matchups in the off lane, so it can be hard to start to really snowball with him, and even when you do snowball, you do eventually fall off to the mid to late game, and that just makes him just kind of feel a little bit in a weird spot in the off lane. And jungle is his more better suited role. He does a little bit better in the jungle role, but ever since there's a lot more viable junglers, there's a lot of crowdedness into it, and I think Crunch has some spot in the jungle roster, but I think other heroes are either easier to play or just like they're able to perform the same kind of stuff that Crunch wants to do, but more easier and safer. So that's kind of like why I'm putting him tier 3 for this version 0.12. Next up is Decker. Still a T1 support, never could go wrong with her. Just really great harassment, always good early, mid, late game. Just never go wrong with her. Nothing much to say about her. Jungle is kind of like becoming like a staple ADC. Just having everything you want in ADC with great peel. His gag grenade's always been super like annoying to deal with, and the fact that another reason why Jungle is also super good is because he's one of those ADCs that can actually combo so well with a lot of supports. Like if you stick him with like a Deca or Victor, that makes for a super deadly lane, because as soon as they get CC, you drop a silence grenade, they can't blink away immediately, they get stuck in that spot. And so it's just like his gag grenade is just so powerful for setting up early kills and just any team fight, because like his gag grenade could just literally shut down other heroes like Crunch and Countess. It's always really hard to deal with him just solely on the fact of his gag grenades, and then he has all the like other great stuff in his kit in general. So I think he's always been a very strong staple ADC right here. Next up is Gadget. She's gonna be tier 2. She's always been kind of solid. She's not particularly someone that's like gonna be super like obvious of being able to really super hard carry stuff. And what I mean by that is Gadget is best played as kind of like a poker, as a long range artillery kind of mage. So she's usually best played when you let her actually just keep poking people. As soon as the fight breaks out, she starts to fall off a little bit in that sense, but she always have that very powerful cage ultimate, very good zone control with it, but also just straight through objectives or just punching people around the space to his old prime. So you can't go wrong with her, but I think she's may not be that kind of character for everyone. Next up is Victor, again just tier 2 hero. It's very interesting that Victor's now no longer recommended in the offlane role last time I checked, and now he's more jungle and support. I seriously think he's super solid in the offlane, just really good into certain matchups in the offlane, but I think he's just a hero that always just have great flexibility. He's always just more so rely on his hooks to actually perform well. So for the average kind of Joe, he can never be like a T1 hero, but all it takes is one hook and you just kind of win fights. So I think he's just always going to be a solid tier 2 because of that alone. Next up is going to be Gideon. He's going to be a tier 2 hero, never can go wrong with him. Always super hard to gank mid lane. He's just a very safe laner and have some great team fight ultimate. The only thing that's kind of holding him back a little bit is the fact that he requires some team follow-up when he ults, or rather he's very vulnerable when he ults, so very bad timings of ultimate can lead to people forcing him down super easily. Whereas like other mages can just kind of keep chucking stuff from afar safely, whereas again has more that high risk, high reward kind of play style. So that's just something to keep in mind when playing him in the mid lane. Next up is Greystone, and he's actually a super solid tier 2 pick. Ever since the jungle adjustments, Greystone jungle, which always been kind of like solid, now become even better in the jungle role. And now this new kind of build is popping up with him that's looking to be really solid, like the Fire Blossom Basilisk tech that provides ample amounts of damage, but also just makes him even more durable. So like in the jungle role especially, he's very good in that role for the fact that normally you want to focus down junglers in team fights. For Greystone, he wants people to focus down because he wants to base abilities and attention on him, eat all that up and get second life with his ultimate, and just be able to just be so hard to just kill in these kind of team fights. And we have a jungler that's just really hard to take down. That means you have a jungler that can like guarantee to live longer and being able to like be around for those fights around the old prime and be able to just secure smites. But he's also really solid in the offlane, even though like in offlane he has some really kind of bad matchups. For the kind of playstyle you play him, you just play him for the mid to late game. So even if he falls behind early, he can still scale up really well for the mid to late game fights, because all you need to do is kind of WK your opponents, get in the back line, eat up a lot of damage, ult, and then keep chasing down. And that's the main fight. Not so much the damage, but the fact that he's just so annoying to deal with team fights. So I think he's just a very stable, very easy, consistent hero at the moment. Next up is Grux, and I am going to be finally bumping up to tier 3. I've been waiting him tier 4 for the longest time, and that's due to the fact that it's just really unenjoyable to play Grux from time to time, because he's just very easy to just like deal with in the offlane if you're a very good player, and the jungle world, especially with more of these junglers coming in, he's really just outshined in a lot of different areas. But I do realize that not everyone will be able to play around perfectly around Grux, and there'll be a lot of situations where you cannot play around or space him out. He's just gonna press W, hold down left click, and just start to be unstoppable. So I think for that alone, I think it's fair to say he's tier 3. I still really don't like how his kit is. There's a reason why Elite Game Design mentioned that he's going to get rework eventually, because he's kind of problematic in that sense. But for right now, he's a solid tier 3 hero right here. Next up is Howitzer. He's going to be a solid tier 2 hero, can't go wrong with him. Very much like a Howitzer, where he's a very safe end lane, and he's very strong in the 1v1s. He actually is a strong 1v1 mage duelist compared to others, but in team fights, like, mages are known for the bread and butter, huge AoE ultimates and like all that kind of good jazz, but Howitzer doesn't really have that. He's more single target focused, so in that instance he could be sometimes feeling not so great in team fights, so you have to keep that in mind when you do pick him in certain team comps. Next up is Kalai, and I'm actually going to put her down in T4. I tried playing her a couple of times on the new like jungle changes, and it's like she's not feeling as good as she used to. Like, I thought like with the jungle changes she'd feel a little bit better because of like sustain and clear, but she still takes a beating in the jungle. So if you're just focusing on just clearing, it's going to be hard for you to be healthy when you do go in and gank. And I think Sklar is that kind of hero that's very reliant on snowballing and getting early kills, but sometimes you just can't get that, and partly it's because you're so reliant on your lanes to do well, get them to like half HP or low, and then you come in and go for the finishing blow. She doesn't really have that damage to 100 CL people early game. You have to get your ultimate and get your like first or second arm to really start to do that. And so like when jungle is all about that having high tempo, trying to get that snowballing rolling, Claw just doesn't feel as great in that sense. But also Claw is just a hero that is very much have a high skill ceiling, I would say. Maybe not obvious in low elos, but in higher elos, when people know how to play the Claw, they can pick heroes that can easily shut her down. Claw starts to feel kind of meh in that sense. Like if you want to play someone that's very much about going for that early game aggression, diving, having high damage, you're better off picking someone like Zarus in that sense, or even Chimera. I think like Collide want to do this similar stuff like Chimera and Zarus, but like the difference is Chimera and Zarus can do that much more consistently than her, in my opinion. Next up is Chimera actually, and he's gonna be solid tier 2 staple jungler. You can never go wrong with him. He's great into a lot of jungle matchups. He's great with early invades. He's always just someone that is just generally just a great hero in the jungle, because like especially if you got the right build on him, he's just someone that can be really hard to take down and while still having tons of damage. But also he's just so great on those objectives, especially on Feng 2 as well. He can just stack up his passive, get large amount of health regen before a fight even breaks out, so you can just never go wrong with him. He just really just can just go into any team comp almost. Next up is Kira. She's gonna be a tier 3 hero. She's still in that awkward spot where it feels like other ADCs don't suffer the same issue she does, and that is mostly just her wave clear just really awful. So like a lot of these heroes like Drongo, Trimlad, even Revenant can clear waves pretty fast mid to late game, but Kira just doesn't do that at all in the base kit. You have to go like items if you want to start to clear pretty good. And so like when you have to like when you're forced to buy items to fix an issue in the hero's kit, that automatically like puts him down low on the list, right? Because Stormbreaker is actually an item that feels really good on her and fixes her major issue, but it's like it's not the most optimal way to play. You really want to go for the crit and all that good stuff, and it's like when you go Stormbreaker, it kind of messes all that up. And please don't build Breach, because Breach is just a really god-awful item at the moment and really just doesn't offer that much. So it's just really hard to really find value in trying to play Kira when she even have the high risk high reward playstyle, which you have to go in and ult to really get turn 5, whereas all these ADCs can achieve their gameplay loop by just staying far back. But I know there's some really scary Kiras out there, so don't sleep on her too much, but just know that she's gonna require a lot more player skill into using her well compared to these other ADCs. Next up is Belica, of course. E1 mid laner. She's a lane bully. She's just really known with the knockup and just get a really nice execute on her enemies for the lock-on ultimate. Can never go wrong with her. She's probably also a similar hero where like I think along as the numbers aren't like too garbage on her, she's always going to be a very strong mage because of her base kit. Next up is Morga. She's going to be a tier 3 hero. I think she's pretty solid. She's really easy to like get into and all that great stuff, but she's someone that can, she's kind of like the Grudge, where you can kind of play around her pretty easily. She has a very predictable range, and she's someone that like doesn't have the traditional large AoE impact in team fight. She's very much single target focused, so if she kind of gets one down, she can't really do much, but if she gets to keep hitting people for free, she's also feel very powerful. So I think Morgan is just someone that it's gonna be a tier 3. I think you can't go wrong with her, but she's someone that you have to realize that she may not fit into any team comp, and she might even get shut down pretty easily depending on the matchup. Next up is Murdoch, just a solid saber tier 2 hero. Just global ultimate can allow him to easily snowball, have great peel for himself, and just very easy, straightforward gameplay loop you can't go wrong with. Next up is Mirror. I'm actually putting a tier 4. Like, Mirror is honestly not that bad. It's just in the solo queue environment, it feels really hard to coordinate well with her. Like, I feel like 80% of the time I see Mirrors, like they don't play her that well, and I think Mirror is a lot harder than people realize in terms of like how you position, when you shield people, when you ult people, like all that stuff. And it's just like she's someone that's also very vulnerable in the early game too. So it's just like I think Mirror is someone that's very good in the comp scene, but really not that great in solo queue. And just compared to all these other enchanters where they're a lot more consistent, easy to pull off, I think Mirror just really kind of pales in comparison. Narbash, solid tier 3 hero. Like I seriously think he's like more up there, but again, I think he's someone that's not as straightforward as people realize. He has a weak early game, but scales really well in the mid to late game. It always feels like in solo queue environments, it's always way better to go like a CC support, like a Richter, Bellica, or Decker, versus more Enchanter support. Because Enchanter support, you're relying on your team to kind of hold their own a little bit, or rather not completely enter out their minds, or rather like it's easy for the support to make the plays and people follow up, but like when you're playing a support that's not supposed to be the playmaker, it can be a little hard to try and play around your teams depending on who you get in the solo queue environment. Next up is Fade. Again, like it's very much like the Mirror, where she's very reliant on the team's performance to do good, and she also like she's someone that's like, I feel like it's just, unless you're in a competitive environment where you can like enable your ADC to like really just perform well in those coordinated team fights, Phase doesn't feel as good in a kind of solo queue environment, but she does feel better than Mirror in the sense that she's very much straightforward and keeping your ADC more alive, more empowered. It's just more easier, less stuff you have to worry about compared to Mirror in my opinion. Next up is Rampage, solid tier 3 hero. He's been a little bit better with this like latest patch. I still think he pairs a little bit compared to some of these other junglers in particular, so I think he's someone that you can't go wrong with. But if you do go him, it's like you have to be very mindful of the kind of team comp you're going, because if you have a tank offlaner and you're going Rampage, then you really don't have any damage, right? So I think you have to be careful of not only what the enemy jungler pick, but also what your team pick to really kind of find a place for Rampage to shine. Next up is Revenant, and he's going to be solid tier 2 hero. He's actually pretty disgusting mid to late game of being 100-0 anyone once he netherworlds them. The only issue is he doesn't have much self-peel for himself, so he could be easier to shut down compared to like other ADCs, and Revenant requires a little bit more snowballing to feel really strong, but he's still such a disgustingly good champion if you can be able to like get to the mid to late game parts. Next up is Zarus, and I'm actually going to put her in tier 2. I think after her being in the game for a while, people realize how to play around her, know how strong she is in the late game, but how weak she can be in the early game. So I think she's going to get tacked down to tier 2, but I still think in the solo queue environment where you want to try solo carry games from time to time, Zarus is very much a very good hero for that. But please just don't like try to 1v5 with Zarus. I see too many Zarus players at like 12-0 and decide they're gonna like E in at 1v5 or Prime and expect they're gonna kill everyone, but they just die instantly, right? Zarus is that kind of hero people realize how to counter, so you can't just do silly stuff like that, so please stop doing that in my game. Thank you very much. But like, no, jokes aside, like you just have to be careful in the mid to late game fights, because if you get hard focus, she dies very fast is what I'm trying to say. But if you get those isolated 1v1s, or when team fights get very chaotic for the enemy team, that's when Sarah starts to really shine. Plus she's one of the best junglers for just destroying objectives, and so she's very good at like forcing objectives really fast and just being able to secure them before the enemy team know what's up. Next up is Shinbi. She's gonna be a tier 3 hero. She still feels kind of like so-and-so ever since they hurt her mana in company pretty hard. It can be hard to like play her consistently well in the off lane where you can run through mana really fast. She does feel good in the jungle, but like I know there are a lot of junglers that feel good right now. So in comparison, Shinbi is like having a lot of competition she has to go through. So because of that, I think she's kind of tier 3. But I think like definitely keep an eye on her, because I tried one build her the other day that felt really good, like with World Breaker, more like thank you boosted Shinbi. So I think Shinbi might be a interesting hero to keep an eye on, because I think there might be a bit another way to build her that may make her feel much better to play in this current meta. Next up is Steel, tier 1 hero, really annoying offlaner, very solid support, and great in the jungle as well. You can never go wrong with Steel, even if he's 100 CS behind. His main value is CCing people for days with his ultimate, with his BAQ. It's just like even if he's behind, he's still very strong in team fights. If he's ahead, he becomes even more disgusting good in team fights. I don't know what to say about him. Next up is going to be the Faye. She's going to be a tier 3 hero. She's always been solid. She has a very volatile ultimate that's very easy to like just shut down and all that kind of good stuff because of all the different cleanses in the game. So just know that if you have going against a team with no cleanses, Faye feels super strong. If you have a enemy team that actually go cleanses when they should do, then yeah, she kind of feels a tier 3 because it's easy to punish. Next up is Tremblast, and he's a tier 1 ADC, just always been super solid, and he's just a very friendly solo kill ADC, just having great mobility, great self-sufficient like 1v1 duels, great range. You just can never go wrong with Tremblast in my opinion. And lastly, it's going to be Sparrow. I think she's a solid tier 3 hero. I think people sort of still sleep on her from time to time. She's actually not as bad in the early game as people think she is, and her late game is just unmatched. But again, there's a solo queue environment, and the main issue with Sparrow in the late game is the fact that she's really suffers from not having any really great self peel for herself. So she's very reliant on the team to do the peeling for her. But sometimes, even if you're trying, your team may not even like bother to peel for you, and that's when she starts to feel really bad when you rely on your team for you to perform. So she's gonna be a tier 3 hero in my opinion for solo queue environment. But yeah, that's about it. That's my full tier list for version 0.12. So again, this is just my opinion at the end of the day, so feel free to disagree with some of my points and all that good stuff. I just try my best to give you guys my best unbiased perspective on what heroes feel really great in the solo queue environment and what other heroes are very so-and-so. So I hope this video was helpful to you guys, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your today. Let me know whether heroes, whether builds you want me to showcase. Thank you as always for all the amazing support, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.